right? And it's the core score of this subject is 107. As students of management, we need to understand certain fundamental topics that are related to the management, right? That's where our syllabus is spread up across 5 units, wherein in these units, we will be dealing with the basic concepts of management. Then in detail, we'll be dealing with the different functions of management, that is planning, organizing, decision making, and controlling. Now imagine a situation where all the students in this today's pandemic, where you all are attending an online session right now, you all decide to move out in Pune and go to one of your favorite places in the evening. Where could it be? Any guesses? You are all from outskirts of Pune?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. So where would it be? Vadeshwar,
FC Road.
Vaishali, FC Road? Okay. So a group of friends decide to do. So what goes into, meeting at a place together in a group? Essentially, you need to plan first, right? You need to contact your group members. Then you need to organize as to what timing we have to meet, at what place exactly, the location, what would be the duration. You could be seeking opinions from your friends or group members as to which would be the best place so that we can sit together for at least an hour and discuss out so many happenings that are going since you have taken admission for your management course. Then you arrive at a decision. Yes, this could be the place that we could be moving into, wherein we would be able to sit quietly and discuss out the things. It could be issues related to your homes. It could be with respect to your course. It could be with respect to many of you would be thinking about what could be the scenario of the placement after this pandemic and so on. And thereby, some of you might be controlling, deciding, yes, this is the place, this is the timing, be on time. You will be, calling each other to ensure that everybody joins the party or joins the get together, right? So similarly, as you are planning a small get together, every management activity has to be planned, organized, decided, and controlled. And that's where the importance of including management fundamentals in your syllabus. So now in Unit 1, which speaks about the basic concepts of management, what are the topics that we would be covering in Unit 1? We would like to understand what do we mean by a manager? What is managing all about? What's the difference, or is there any difference between a workplace and an organization? And so on. So few basic concepts, the terminology that would be on and often utilized in our management fundamental sessions, right? Then a few more things like what are the functions of management? Mintzberg's managerial roles. What are the different roles that a manager performs while managing within an organization? Then the universality of management. Yes, this concept of management, it is universal in nature, required and applied everywhere, whichever nook and corner of earth you go into. Then different approaches to management. There are certain studies that were made with respect to management, and that's how the management has evolved as a different stream in itself, right from the classical approach, early management, classical approach to the contemporary approaches of today. Further, we will be looking into the managerial competencies, managerial skills, and then the importance of the customers, importance of innovation, and importance of sustainability to the manager's job. So let us start with the first term, that is a manager. Who is a manager? He is a person who manages or is in charge of something, who has been assigned a task of managing something. These managers can control departments in companies, or they could be guide to the people who work for them, people who work under them, and so on. And these managers, a most common thing amongst these managers is they have to keep on taking decisions every now and then. Be it a financial manager, a production manager, a human resource manager, or a marketing manager. Every now and then they are required to arrive at decisions. And that's where Henry Fayol says that the managers are required to plan, organize, lead, coordinate, and control. Only then it could be said that a manager is managing, or he is in charge, or he is controlling the department or the people who are working for him. Right? A manager is responsible for overseeing and leading the work of a group of people in many instances. A manager is also responsible for planning and maintaining work systems, procedures, and policies that enable and encourage the optimum performance of its people and other resources in any business unit. Right? Okay. So with this term, now we move ahead with next term, that is managing. When we say that she managed the crisis with a minimum fuss, what does that mean? So managing essentially has to deal with something usually very done skillfully or efficiently. That is what is managing all about. Now, the next term we would be looking into is workplace. After manager and what do we mean by managing, let us look into what do we mean by workplace. Now, a workplace is a location where someone works for the employer, or it is the place of employment where a person moves out from his residence, reaches and provides the services for which he has been hired. Now, such a place can range from a home office to a large office building or a factory. For industrialized societies, the workplace is one of the most important social spaces other than the home, constituting a general concept for several entities. The worker and his or her family, the employing organization, the customers of the organization, and the society as a whole. Now, the development of various new technologies for communication, they have led to development of a virtual workplace. That is, a workplace that is not located in any one of the physical spaces. That's what we are doing in today's pandemic, work from home, right? So whatever place you are rendering the services from constitutes your workplace. Now with workplace, we move on to another study that is being conducted with respect to creating the best workplace on the earth. A research has been made and it has been published in the Harvard Business Review by Rob Goofy and Garrett Jones. Can a best workplace be created? That was the research that was carried by both of them. Now let us look into what does their research say or speak about. One should understand that no organization can fulfill every hope and desire of its employees. So it helps to know which matter the most to the people, right? No doubt none of the organization can satisfy all the desires of their employees, but then an organization should know that what is it that matters the most to the employees. And Goofy and Jones, they have identified 6 most essential imperatives for creating an ideal work environment. Let us see what they are speaking about. Now, suppose you want to design the best company on earth to work for. They say, what would it be like? Okay. That was a question that was put forth by both of them. For 3 years, they had been investigating this question by asking hundreds of executives in surveys and in seminars all over the world to describe what could be an ideal organization. Now, this mission arose from their research into the relationship between authenticity and effective leadership. It was very simple to know that people will not follow a leader in case they feel that the leader is not an authentic one or is an inauthentic leader. So, together they tried to describe an organization that operated at its fullest potential by allowing the people to do their best work. They call this as the organization of your dreams. And in nutshell, they come up with the 6 most essential imperatives. They were as follows. The organization of your dreams, it is a company. One, it's a company where individual differences are nurtured. That is, they are taken care of. 2, the information, any information within that organization is not suppressed. 3, the company or the organization, it adds value to its employees rather than every now and then, extracting work from them. It also adds values to the employees apart from the work that they are required to be done by them. 4th, the organization stands for something meaningful. Whenever the employees think about their organization, there is something meaningful that is going into their minds that yes, I have to do this for my organization. I have to achieve this objective. I have to move on. They have to be motivated throughout. Rule number 5, the work itself is intrinsically rewarding. Whenever an employee performs the work, he feels good about the work being done by him. And 6th rule, or the 6th essential imperative, is that there are no stupid rules that are being laid in the organization, merely that harasses the employees and prevents them from giving the best at their work. So these are the 6 most essential tips that were given by Goofy and Jones in their research in the Harvard Business Review. Now, there was another research which was conducted from the Hay Group. It finds that highly engaged employees are, on average, 50% more likely to exceed their expectations than the least engaged workers. So more the employees engaged in the organization, the better for the organization as well as the employees. And companies with highly engaged people, they always outperform the firms with the most disengaged folks by 54% in employee retention and 89% in customer satisfaction, and fourfold, 4 times in the revenue growth. Also, a recent research what was done by London Business School colleague Dan Cable, it showed that employees who feel welcome to express their authentic selves at work exhibit higher levels of organizational commitment, individual performance, and propensity to help others. They offered their findings, therefore, as a challenge, an agenda for the leaders and organizations that aim to create the most productive and rewarding working environment possible. The two major rules to be followed that were laid out were: let people be themselves. Let people be themselves if you want to excel in the organization. So when companies try to accommodate their differences, they too often confine themselves to the traditional diversity characteristics. That is, the gender, race, age, ethnicity, and the like. Now, for example, at LVMH, that is the world's largest luxury goods company, which is growing rapidly, every employee is expected to find brilliant, creative innovators. And you do find them. But alongside them, you also encounter a higher than expected proportion of executives and specialists who monitor and assess the ideas of their employees with analytical business focus. So one of the ingredients in LVMH success is having an organizational culture where the opposite times can thrive and work in a cooperative manner. Right? That's where LVMH looks for creative people who want their designs to be marketable and who in turn are more likely to appreciate the monitors who are skilled at spotting the commercial potential. So looking into the organizational culture at LVMH, which is considered to be one of the best places to work into, let us look into what do we mean by an organization. An organization, it refers to a collection of people who are involved in pursuing a defined objectives. It can be understood as a social system which compromises all formal human relationships. The organization, it encompasses division of work amongst the employees, and accordingly, as per the division of work, the alignment of tasks towards the ultimate goal of a company. It can also be referred to as a second most important managerial function that coordinates the works of employees, procures resources, and combines the two in order to pursue the goals of any company. Now let us look into the process of building any of the organization. We are having the steps in front of you. Step number 1, determination and classification of the firm's activities. Identify which are the activities that would be required to be carried out in order to achieve the organization's or the company's objectives. Group number 2, grouping or putting together of the activities into workable departments. The activities have to combine in such a way that the common activities can be put into a single department. Step 3, assignment of authority and responsibility on the departmental executives for undertaking the delegated tasks. Now, once the workable departments are formed, necessarily these departments will be headed by one of the executives. In order to view that the activities that are assigned to a particular department are being carried out as per the plans, the executives, they need the requisite amount of authority. Else, none of the employees is going to listen to them, right? And this authority, it never comes alone. It comes along with the responsibility to head a particular workable department. So that was with respect to assignment of authority and responsibility. Then we are having step number 4, developing a relationship amidst superior and subordinate within the unit or department. There is certain hierarchy that is required to be followed depending upon the organization structure. Now this hierarchy, this you can say a chain of communication, will help in carrying out the required tasks by each of the departments. And step number 5, framing the policies for proper coordination between the superior and subordinate and creating specific lines of supervision. So that's how the organizations are created across this 5-step process. Organization is in itself a goal-oriented process. It aims at achieving the goals through proper planning, coordination between the activities. Now, it also relies on the principle of division of work. The entire work that is required to be carried out in the organization is divided into subparts, and setting up of authority and responsibility, relationship amongst the members of the organization so that the work can be carried out in a smoother manner, right? Now, with this, we further look into once defining and understanding what is an organization and what is the process of formation of organization. Let us look into what are the different types of organization structure. Now, there are basically 2 types of organization structure, that is formal organization structure and an informal one. Okay, where the number of formalities with respect to approaching your superiors or your subordinates are not that formal. That's where it is called as an informal organization structure. So in formal organization structure, we are having further different types of organization structures. Let us look into them one by one. We are having line organization, functional organization, line and staff organization, project management organization, and matrix organization. We start with the first one, that is line organization under formal organization structure. In formal organization, the structure of the jobs and positions with specific activities and relationships is already known or made aware to the employees. Under formal organizations, the first one that we would be looking into is line organization. Now, this line organization is the oldest and the simplest pattern of any organization, wherein the supervisor has an outright supervision over the subordinate. Okay. The flow of authority is from the top level executive to the person at the lowest level of the organization's echelon. So we can see in the picture given over here, where the authority flows from the general manager to sales manager, then assistant sales manager, division 1, 2, 3, and 4. Further, from the respective sales manager, it flows to the different sales personnel who are taking care of the sales department. So that's where the authority flows, from the top level executive to the person at the lowest level of the organization hierarchy. So this is called as line organization. Now we move on to the next organization structure, that is called as the functional organization structure. Now this is the one in which the task of managing and de-restricting the employees is grouped as per the functions or the type of work involved. We can see over here that there are different functional departments that are being formed under each of the products A, B, and C. We are having, for all the products, we are having functional departments like research and development, production, and finance. So these are the functional areas of management, according to which the departments are being framed under each and every product that the organization is manufacturing. Next, we look into line and staff organization. Now, this type of organization structure is an improvement over the traditional line organization. In line and staff organization, the primary and supporting activities are related to the line of supervision by appointing supervisors and specialists who are linked to the line authority. So one can see over here that we are having different functional heads under which we are having the supporting activities, specialization shops, okay, which are managed by the operators therein. So this is line and staff organization, where we can see the functional departments, as well as we can see that the organization hierarchy is flowing from the topmost executive to the functional executive and then to the different shops or the further departments that are providing the services by their operators. Next, we move on to project management organization and matrix organization. Now, project management or project organization, it's not an independent organization as such, right? Like the organization structures that we discussed above, instead, it is set up within the organization itself so as to accomplish a project or a firm's objectives. It is led by a project manager who is responsible for the project objectives. So within any of the organization structures that we discussed above, there could be different departments that could be handling different projects. Okay, and thereby the authority will flow from the topmost executive to the project managers, and depending upon the nature of the products, there will be further line of authority that is moving down. That's with respect to the projects that are being handled. Next is matrix organization. Now, matrix organization is the emerging structure of the organization, which is a combination of functional organization and project organizations. Now, in such organization, the functional departments like the production, accounting, marketing, human resources, finance, and so on, they constitute the vertical chain of command, while the project division constitutes the horizontal line of authority. So this is with respect to the formal organization structure that we discussed. Under formal organizations, we had line organization, functional organization, line and staff, project management, and matrix organization. Now we move on to informal organization. So informal organization structure, here the relationship between the employees, it relies on personal attitudes, prejudices and interests rather than the strict procedures that are being laid down and that are being displayed. So it is a system of personal and social connection whose creation is not needed by formal organization. So the organization structure is a basic idea which depends on the activity authority relationship in the company. It is designed in such a way to realize the objectives for which the business is being established. So now, with these different types of organization structure, formal and informal ones, we further move on to management functions. What are the different functions that are required to be carried out by each and every manager? So essentially, as given in the diagrams, the functions of the management include planning, organizing, staffing, directing, controlling, and of course, coordinating. Let us discuss them in detail one by one. First one is planning. Now, planning is the foremost function of management. All other functions are based on planning function. A manager has to determine in advance or plan in advance what is to be done, when it is to be done, and how it is to be done, right? Just as a manner in which we plan the visit at one of the restaurants, like what is to be done going over there, what is the agenda, what are we going to discuss, when it is to be done, the timings, and how it is to be discussed in a group meeting. Optimum utilization of resources is out of question without planning. What are the resources that are scarce available with the team members when you plan for a party? The resources are probably the money that you would be spending, the time that you have decided that you will be meeting, the manner in which you will be approaching, and so on. So similarly, for any business organization too, the resources with which a business organization is working, like men, material, machinery, money, and so on, are scarce in nature for any business organization, and hence they have to be utilized in the most optimum manner so that best could be brought from these resources. And this is not possible without planning activity. Thus, we see that planning eliminates the tendency to work in haphazard manner. It sets the direction for the entire organization to proceed towards the goal. Planning may be regarded as the process of determining the objectives, discovering the alternative courses of action, and selecting an appropriate course of action to accomplish the goals. So, in absence of planning, no other managerial function can be performed, be it organizing, staffing, directing, and so on. right? Now, plans are not rigid and they are supposed to be flexible. Flexibility is a must feature in the planning process. Why flexibility? Because the plans are required to be adjusted, to be changed with respect to the changing circumstances, with respect to the changes that are put forth in the working of any business organization by the external environment of business, right? So, in short, we can say that the entire planning function it revolves around the following: one, determination of the objectives for the organization, the purpose for which the organization is being planned, then formulation of policies, budgets, programs, and schedules, the manner in which, that is, the goals will be achieved, then formulation of plans of action that will be implemented, actually implemented in order to achieve these goals. Now, these plans, action plans, could be both at strategic level and at operational level. Further, we are having forecasting and decision making, right? So, thus we can say that planning is an ongoing process, a persuasive function, and is required to be carried out at any level of management. Next important function after planning is organizing. Now, the term organizing generally connotes assembling together the resources, that is, the men, money, material, and technology that an organization possesses. Under organizing function, work is assigned to the employees who are given authority to carry out the work assigned and made accountable for it. Thus, organizing would involve the following activities. Let us list them one by one. Determining the total activities of business essential to accomplish the organizational objectives. Dividing and subdividing the total activities into groups. Then grouping the activities of similar nature in terms of departments, that is formation of departments, or we can call them as sections or units. Delegation of authority to the respective department and coordinating the functions of different departments for accomplishing the overall goals or the objectives for which the business organization is established. So first one was planning, second one organizing, third one is staffing. Once the plans are put in place, the structure of the organization is designed, and managers seek to fill up the organization slots with suitable manpower. Because ultimately, who is required to achieve the objectives of the business organization? How it could be done? By staffing, by having the required manpower to do it, right? So now this requires further the following functions to be performed when we speak about staffing or the manpower requirements. First is determine, try to identify the manpower requirements for the entire organization as such. Second, identify the eligible candidates, okay, and persuade them to apply for the vacancies that are being created in the organization to work for. Then comes selection of suitable candidates. Next, formulation of human resource policies that will govern the manpower of the organization. Then arranging for things like periodical training for manpower and their development so that they give their best in achieving the organizational objectives. Compensating the manpower, that's the reward for the work done by them. What could be their salary paid to the people working in different departments? and incentivizing their decisions. When the incentives are required to be given to the different people, whether it is as per meeting the required quality standards, or it could be based on certain, standard goals or targets that are set for them, outperforming this standard. So deciding upon when incentives should be given to the people working in the organization. No, not this much is not sufficient. Just, identifying the manpower requirements, making or persuading them to apply, selecting the candidates, giving them the necessary authority and training and compensation is not enough, because more the number of people working in the organization, more the number of conflicts that might arise, because no two brains work alike, right? So there has to be the installation of a grievance redressal mechanism, which is a must for having healthy relationships among the employees. Further, periodical evaluation of the human resources, evaluating that the work performed by them, and the promotion decisions. Apart from promotion, that there could be decisions with respect to transfer of the people, disciplinary action required to be taken against them. There could be termination for some of the employees for not observing the rules, and so on. At the same time, keeping the employees motivated to work is also a must. So all these things, they follow under the purview or ambit of staffing domain. So that's what staffing takes care of. Now, once the plans are set, okay, the departments are formed, and the required manpower is being procured. Next, most important function is to give directions to this manpower, right? So that's where directing comes into the picture. Now, directing denotes motivating, leading, or guiding and communicating with the subordinates on an ongoing basis in order to accomplish the preset goals. Employees are kept informed of all the necessary matters, right? Now, when we speak of directing, how does this directing of the employees takes place? It could be by way of circulars, it could be by way of instructions, it could be by way of manuals, it could be by way of newsletters that comes on a periodical basis in an organization, just as we have newsletters in our colleges, the notice boards for display, the meetings that are being planned, and certain participative mechanism that works in an organization in order to enable the employees to accomplish the organizational goals. So thus we can see that the process of directing would involve n number of tasks. It could be issuing orders and instructions regarding the work to be performed, then guiding, counseling, mentoring, educating, attending the employees whenever they are in trouble, and so on. Then supervising the work of the employees on a regular basis to see that the desired quality targets are being met. Maintaining discipline amongst the employees, right? Motivating the employees and inspiring the subordinates to follow the orders and instructions that are set for the direction purpose. And most important, providing effective leadership to the employees. If a leader is effective, then the followers are necessarily to follow the goals and the targets set or put forth by the leaders. After all this takes place, the employees are being directed to do the work, instructions are given, they are motivated. Another important function would be controlling the manpower with which the objectives of the organization are desired to be met. So the process of controlling is a final function which is carried out in terms of planning. Now, this function is performed to evaluate the performance of the employees and deciding their increments and promotional decisions. Now, this control function, it helps in identifying the employees who are underperformers, okay, and that is who are not performing as per the expectations laid for them, and then accordingly arranging for a remedial training so that they perform better next time. So thus the control function facilitates the synchronization of actual performance with the predetermined standards. So now identifying the certain activities that are performed under controlling, let us try to find out. So it could be, as we talked about the underperformers and arrangement of remedial training, the different activities that would be carried out would be fixation of the performance standards for subordinates, measuring the actual performance in comparison with the standards, then comparing the actual performance with the standards, identifying or finding out the causes for deviation from these standards, analyzing the reasons for the same, and lastly, undertaking corrective measures in order to bring the actual performance to the standards set. Right? So this is where or how the controlling function works. Now, another important function is coordination. Though not mentioned in the diagram, coordination is a process of synchronizing the diverse functions that we discussed right now: planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. And securing, it helps in securing a unity of action. Now it is compared to a chariot which is driven by multiple horses, right? Now the charioteer has to drive all die horses in one direction. Similar is a example in case of an organization. We are all aware that a CEO is a charioteer like Lord Krishna in Mahabharata, right? It is a conscious and a rational process of pulling together the various departments of an organization and unifying them into a team in order to accomplish the goals in an effective manner. So that's how the function of coordination, it pulls together each and every one within the organization in achieving the desired objectives of a business organization. So that's where we stop for today. Now, let us go through what we discussed today. We discussed about manager, what we understand by managing, what is a workplace and an organization, what are the different functions of management, right? So we stop here for today. Thank you, class. In the next session, we will be discussing about the Mintzberg's managerial roles. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.